Exhausted by design. Why Millennials and Gen Z are always tired. Introduction. A generation that never recovers. Millennials and Gen Z are tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Not just physically exhausted, but mentally, emotionally, and psychologically drained. Rest feels incomplete. Weekends don't recharge. Vacations feel too short, if they happen at all. This isn't individual burnout. It's collective exhaustion. These generations are often told to sleep more, manage stress better, unplug, or practice self-care. But these suggestions misunderstand the problem. The fatigue Millennials and Gen Z experience isn't caused by poor habits. It's caused by living inside systems that demand constant output, constant attention, and constant emotional regulation with very little security in return. This is the story of why being tired has become the default state for an entire generation. Part 1: work that never really ends. For previous generations, work had boundaries. You went to a place. You worked certain hours. You left. Today, work follows people everywhere. Emails arrive at night. Messages come on weekends. Notifications blur the line between personal time and labor. Remote work, while flexible, also erase the natural stopping points that once existed. Millennials and Gen Z are rarely fully off the clock. Even when they aren't actively working, they're available, waiting, anticipating, mentally preparing. That constant low-level vigilance is exhausting. Part 2: economic pressure as a permanent background stressor. Financial insecurity creates ongoing stress, not occasional worry. Rent is due every month. Debt accumulates quietly. Healthcare costs remain unpredictable. Savings feel fragile or non-existent. For many Millennials and Gen Z workers, one missed paycheck could trigger crisis. This means the nervous system never fully relaxes. The body stays in survival mode. Chronic financial stress drains energy long before the workday even begins. Part 3: the emotional labor of modern life. Emotional labor used to describe managing feelings in service roles. Now it applies to almost everything. Customer service workers must stay pleasant under abuse. Office workers must manage personalities, office politics, and performance optics. Gig workers must maintain perfect ratings. Content creators must remain visible, engaging, and positive. Even personal relationships require emotional labor in an overstimulated world. Managing emotions becomes a job itself, and it's unpaid. Part 4: political and social awareness. Without escape, Millennials and Gen Z are the most informed generations in history. They are also the most overwhelmed. Every day brings news of political instability, climate disasters, social injustice, economic uncertainty, and global conflict. Social media ensures these realities are impossible to ignore. Awareness is constant. Outrage cycles never stop. Moral responsibility feels inescapable. Caring deeply in a world that keeps breaking is emotionally exhausting. Part 5: overstimulation as the default setting. Modern life is loud. Screens everywhere. Notifications constantly. Content never ending. Phones vibrate. Feeds refresh. Algorithms compete for attention. Silence becomes uncomfortable because the brain is conditioned to expect stimulation. Even rest is mediated by screens. This level of sensory input overwhelms the nervous system, making true rest difficult to achieve. The brain never powers down. Part 6: the pressure to optimize everything. Millennials and Gen Z were raised in a culture of optimization. Optimize productivity. Optimize health. Optimize relationships. Optimize time. Even rest must be productive. Sleep is tracked. Exercise is gamified. Hobbies are monetized. Relaxation becomes another task to perform correctly. When everything is a project, nothing feels restorative. Part 7: hustle culture and the guilt of rest. Hustle culture taught an entire generation that rest must be earned. If you're tired, you're not working hard enough. If you slow down, you're falling behind. Even as hustle culture is criticized, its guilt remains embedded. Rest feels undeserved. Pauses feel risky. Doing nothing feels irresponsible. The result is chronic overexertion without recovery. Part 8. Multiple roles, no relief. Millennials and Gen Z often carry multiple roles at once. Employee, freelancer, caregiver, student, partner, friend. Many juggle side hustles, family responsibilities, and emotional support roles for others, all while managing their own stress. There is little space to simply exist without obligation. Part 9. Social media comparison as energy drain. Comparison is exhausting. Seeing peers succeed, travel, buy homes, start families, or appear happy creates constant internal pressure. Even when people know these images are curated, the emotional impact remains. It reinforces the feeling of falling behind. Trying to keep up financially, socially, emotionally consumes enormous energy. Part 10. The physical manifestation of stress. Chronic exhaustion doesn't stay mental. It becomes physical. Sleep disorders, digestive issues, chronic pain, brain fog, anxiety, and depression. The body absorbs stress that never fully resolves. Being tired becomes an identity rather than a temporary state. Part 11. Why self-care isn't enough. Self-care is often framed as the solution. Take a bath. Meditate. Buy something nice. But self-care treats symptoms, not causes. You cannot self-care your way out of systemic exhaustion. You cannot rest your way out of an economy that demands constant output. You cannot unplug from a world that requires constant engagement to survive. The problem is structural, not personal. Part 12. The loss of true downtime. True downtime requires safety. Safety to rest without fear of consequences. Safety to disconnect without falling behind. Safety to recover without guilt. For many millennials and Gen Z adults, that safety doesn't exist. Time off is unpaid. Benefits are limited. Emergencies loom. Rest becomes conditional. Part 13. Why this fatigue feels different from the past. Every generation gets tired. What's different now is the lack of recovery cycles. Previous generations experienced hard periods followed by stability. Millennials and Gen Z experience overlapping crises with no clear resolution. There is no after, just adaptation. Part 14. Misinterpreting exhaustion as weakness. Millennials and Gen Z are often criticized for being fragile, but exhaustion is not fragility. It is the logical response to sustained pressure without relief. Any system subjected to constant load eventually fails. Human beings are no different. Part 15. What real rest would require? Real rest requires structural change. Predictable work hours. Living wages. Affordable housing. Healthcare security. Digital boundaries. Cultural permission to slow down. Without these, exhaustion will remain normalized and dangerous. Conclusion. Tired for a reason. Millennials and Gen Z are not tired because they lack discipline, resilience, or motivation. They are tired because they are carrying too much for too long in systems that were never designed to let them rest. Emotional labor, economic pressure, constant awareness, overstimulation. This exhaustion is not a personal failure. It's a warning. A generation that is always tired is a generation stretched beyond sustainable limits. And until the structures causing that exhaustion change, no amount of sleep will ever feel like enough.